It was late August when the fair came to town. My friend Noah and I had been waiting all summer to visit the abandoned carnival grounds. The town had been holding it for years, but no one ever went there after dark. This time, we decided to break the rules. We snuck in with our friends Lily and Hannah, knowing full well the carnival had been closed for nearly a decade. The air was thick with humidity as we walked past decaying rides. The Ferris wheel creaked in the breeze, and the ground crunched underfoot. The lights in the carnival booths had long since flickered out, leaving nothing but darkness stretching across the entire site. Old, rusted cars lined the bumper car area, most of them tipped over or half submerged in weeds. The once vibrant carnival signs had faded to ghostly shades of yellow and red. The scent of mildew hung in the air, mixed with a faint smell of something I couldn't quite place. Something metallic like blood. "We should check out the Ferris wheel first," Noah said, his voice cracking slightly. He was always the bravest of us, the one who dared to try things first. But even he couldn't mask the slight unease in his tone. I gave him a playful shove. "You're not scared, are you?" He shrugged, but there was something in his eyes, something I couldn't explain. "We've come this far," he muttered, his gaze drifting toward the towering, rusted skeleton of the Ferris wheel. "What's the worst that could happen?" We made our way toward the Ferris wheel, the sound of our footsteps unervingly loud in the silence of the abandoned fairground. The wind stirred the faded flags above the ride, causing them to sway eerily as if something or someone was watching us. "Check it out," Noah said suddenly, pointing. "The lights are flickering." I turned my head. At the far end of the carnival, just beyond the midway, the old lights along the food stalls sputtered and blinked, casting long, jagged shadows across the cracked asphalt. We all paused. It wasn't supposed to be like this. The power had been cut for years. Lily and Hannah exchanged nervous glances, but Noah pressed on, urging us forward. "Don't be babies," he laughed, his voice too loud, too forced. "The worst that's out here is a few ghosts. Right, guys?" I didn't answer, not sure what to make of it. It was hard to shake the feeling that something was off about this place. The closer we got to Ferris wheel, the more the shadows seemed to shift. I felt it before I saw it. Something in the air, a pressure, as though the ground itself had begun to hum, just beneath the surface of reality. And then I saw it, a figure, tall, impossibly tall, standing motionless in the shadow of the Ferris wheel. It was just standing there, watching us. At first, I thought it was another person, someone else who had come to explore, maybe, but then I realized it wasn't moving. Not at all. Its silhouette was dark, too dark for the faint light around us to make any sense of. The form seemed to stretch unnaturally high into the air, its limbs long and thin, with an impossible stillness that set my heart pounding. "Do you see that?" I whispered to Noah. He didn't answer at first. Instead, he stepped forward. "Hey!" "Who's there?" The figure didn't respond. It didn't even move. The air grew colder, and a strange, guttural sound filled the silence, like the wind, but thicker, somehow. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up, and I felt a deep sense of dread settle over me. And then, from somewhere in the distance, a voice, low and distorted, whispered just loud enough for us to hear. "You shouldn't be here." I froze. That voice, wasn't like any voice I'd ever heard before. It was hollow, distant, as if it came from deep within the earth or from the very core of the carnival itself. We stood there, paralyzed, as the figure began to step toward us, moving with a disturbing grace. Its limbs extended and bent at angles that didn't seem human, twisting unnaturally as it came into the dim light. The closer it got, the more I could see. It had no face, just a smooth, featureless surface where its face should have been, and the darkness. Its body was pure shadow, darker than anything the dim light could cast. It was like the night itself had taken shape. I wanted to scream, to run, but my body wouldn't obey. I was rooted to the spot, trapped in the figure's gaze, or rather, where its eyes should have been. Noah was the first to react. He stumbled back, breaking the spell, his eyes wide with panic. "Run! Now!" he shouted, and that's when everything fell apart. The others were already running, but I was frozen. I couldn't look away from the figure, couldn't tear my eyes from it as it advanced. I don't know what came over me, but I couldn't help but take one last look at its empty, featureless face. The figure's mouth opened, and a voice, not the distorted whisper this time, but a deep, rumbling growl, filled my mind. "You are all trespassers. You have disturbed me." It was the last thing I heard before I turned and ran, heart hammering in my chest. The ground beneath me seemed to rise up as I stumbled, nearly tripping over the broken pavement. I could hear Noah, Lily, and Hannah ahead of me, their footsteps frantic as they sprinted away. But there was no sign of them. The wind howled through the broken rides, and the distant scream of the Ferris wheel's rusted gears echoed in my ears. I don't know how I made it out. I don't remember the exact moment I broke through the gates and stumbled into the safety of the streets. But I did. I was out. I turned back, panting, my eyes scanning the carnival grounds. For a moment, everything seemed still, quiet. The lights stopped flickering. The air was thick and still again. But something was wrong. Noah was gone. We found him later, just before the authorities arrived. The Ferris wheel had been the only ride still standing, and when the police searched it, they found an empty seat. Just one seat, swaying in the breeze. No Noah. The investigation never turned up any answers. The town tried to forget about the carnival, tried to pretend it never happened. But I couldn't forget. I couldn't erase the image of that figure, standing in the shadows, watching us. Weeks later, I was going through some old photos I'd found in my attic. Some of them were the carnival from years ago, back when it was still operating. One photo in particular stood out, a group of people standing in front of the Ferris wheel, smiling, laughing, their faces bright with excitement. But in the corner of the photo, there was a shadow, a tall, dark shape. It was the same figure from that night. The curse of the Slenderman had claimed its next victims. The wind howled through the trees, the cold biting at my skin as I stood at the edge of the forest. My heart pounded in my chest, every instinct screaming at me to turn around and run back to the safety of my house. But I couldn't, not after everything that had happened. Evan's cryptic messages had plagued my thoughts, gnawing at my sanity like a slow, relentless poison. "He's been waiting in the woods for you." Those words echoed in my mind as I looked into the dense blackness of the forest. It was a quiet night, but the silence felt heavy, unnatural, like something was lurking just beyond my line of sight. I took a cautious step forward, the dry leaves beneath my feet crunching loudly in the stillness. The air felt thick with something that made my skin crawl. The trees loomed overhead, their twisted branches reaching out like skeletal hands, blocking out most of the moonlight. It was as if the forest itself were trying to swallow me whole. Suddenly I felt it, eyes on me, cold, calculating eyes, as if something or someone was watching from shadows. I froze, trying to steady my breath. My eyes scanned the tree line, but there was nothing, no movement, nothing but darkness and the wind whispering through the branches. "Madison," the whisper came from somewhere deep within the forest, a voice low and haunting. It was unmistakable. "Evan." My stomach twisted, and I took another step back, almost tripping over a protruding root. I stumbled, catching myself just in time, but it was enough to break my trance. I was no longer frozen. I wanted to scream, to call out for help, but my throat felt tight, constricted. Instead, I took another step back. That's when I saw it. A figure, tall and unnaturally thin, standing just outside the reach of the trees. It was barely visible at first, more like a shadow against the blackness of the forest. But as my eyes adjusted, I could make out its shape. Its limbs were too long, its body unnaturally stretched. Its face was not there. It was just a blank, pale void where its features should have been. A disturbing absence of a face. I gasped, stumbling backward. My breath came in short, frantic bursts. I turned to run, but my feet seemed to be stuck in place, my body frozen as if held by some unseen force. The figure stepped forward, moving with an unnatural fluidity, its limbs bending and twisting as it came closer. It was no longer just standing at the tree line. It was right there, just beyond the reach of the forest, closing the distance between us with each slow, deliberate step. I tried to scream, but my voice caught in my throat. My legs finally moved, and I ran, not looking back, knowing that if I did, I would never escape. The sound of my feet pounding the ground echoed in my ears as I darted between the trees, my heart racing, my breath ragged. Every so often, I thought I heard something following me, something with long, rapid strides, almost like it was mocking my desperate attempts to flee. As I ran, I saw the flicker of movement in the corner of my eye. The same figure, tall and thin, moved along with me, always just outside my peripheral vision, never fully in sight. The trees seemed to close in on me, their twisted branches blocking any chance of escape. The air grew thick, heavier with each passing second, suffocating me, making it harder to breathe. I finally reached a clearing near the edge of the forest, gasping for breath, my legs trembling from exhaustion. The figure was no longer behind me. At least, I didn't think it was. But then, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Evan. He stood just a few feet away, his face expressionless, his eyes empty and hollow. His presence sent a chill down my spine, something far colder than the forest air. "Why are you doing this?" I managed to choke out, my voice shaking. Evan didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his jacket and pulled out his phone. Without a word, he held up, showing me the same images he had shared before. Children wandering through the woods, their faces pale and distorted. But this time there was something new. In the background of the images, just barely visible, were those same tall, shadowy figures. "They never leave the forest," Evan whispered, his voice a low, chilling murmur. "Not once they meet him." My blood ran cold as the realization hit me. The thing in the forest, the thing that had been following me, it wasn't just some figment of my imagination. It was real, and it was waiting for me, just like Evan had said. I took a step back, my pulse racing. "Who is he?" Evan smiled, but it wasn't the kind of smile that made me feel safe. It was twisted dark, like he was savoring some sick joke. "You'll find out soon enough." Suddenly, the ground beneath me seemed to tremble, as if the very earth was alive and responding to Evan's words. The trees began to sway, despite the lack of wind. The air grew colder, and the distant howling of the wind grew louder. And then, just as I thought I might collapse from fear, I heard it, a whisper, a voice, deep and guttural, coming from the forest. It was too far to make out the words, but it was enough to know that whatever it was, it wanted me. I turned to run again, but before I could even take a step, I felt a sharp pain in my chest, as if someone or something had reached out and grabbed my heart. The force was overwhelming, and I stumbled, falling to my knees in the dirt. Evan stood over me now, watching with cold, detached amusement as I gasped for air, my vision blurring. The pain intensified, squeezing tighter and tighter, as if my very life was being drained from me. "Don't worry," Evan said, his voice sickly sweet. "He's just here to finish what he started." I tried to scream, but no sound came out. The world around me began to spin, the darkness closing in like a suffocating cloud. And then, just as everything went black, I saw again those tall, shadowy figures standing at the edge of the forest, their hollow eyes watching, waiting. And I knew in that moment that I would never leave the woods.